one. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Real Ones Canes podcast. I'm the Beast, Brian London, up here at my parents' house in just north of Boston, enjoying the holidays with family. I hope you got to enjoy your holidays with friends and family. A happy belated or merry belated Christmas to those of you that celebrate, and those of you that are like me and celebrate Hanukkah. It's the Festival of Lights. It's going on. I got my Mickey Hanukkah shirt going on. So a happy Hanukkah to you and just a happy holiday season to everyone. Brandon, obviously, it's the school vacation. He's got the kids. He's got this. He's got that. He's got 78 jobs. So he's off this week again. But we continue along. A couple of things I want to get to in this podcast. Just talk quickly about the Pop Tarts Bowl and Miami and Iowa State. Some of you won't see this or hear this before the game, but we'll throw it in there. We got some transfer portal news, and then obviously the big news. I'm recording this on Friday morning, December 27th, and yesterday on Thursday, we got the big news that basketball coach Jim Larranaga was retiring and stepping down immediately as the head coach of Miami Hurricanes basketball. So we will talk about that in segment number 2, but I wanted to talk about the Pop Tarts Bowl. You have two teams, Miami and Iowa State, that are both going for an 11-win season. Iowa State has never won 11 games in program history. Miami has not won 11 games since the 2003 season, which ended in the Orange Bowl against Florida State. That game was kind of an ugly game, but Miami sealed the deal when Larry Coker decided to, I think, backed up, not up against the goal line, but in their own territory. On a 4th down, Larry Coker decides to call a fake punt, where it was a direct snap to DJ Williams, who then, remember DJ Williams, obviously you know him as a linebacker, but he really was a great running back. In his first year at Miami, played some fullback, played some running back as well. Just one of the most amazing athletes I've seen. Fake punt to DJ Williams. He scatters up the middle, gets the first down and more. Miami seals the victory against Florida State at the Orange Bowl and gets an 11-win season. And at the time, we're like, oh, well, this is just going to keep going. And it didn't. It didn't keep going. 2004, they go to the Peach Bowl and beat Florida. And then the next year, we all know what happened against LSU, and that was the beginning of the end. Right, because of the year after that, on Larry Coker's last year, after he was forced to change his entire staff by Pete Garcia. A lot of you don't know that, right? That maybe that's some inside information. That everyone was like, "Oh, Larry Coker just fired the best assistants Miami's ever had." That whole crew: Don Solinger, Art Kehoe, Vernon Hargraves, Curtis Johnson, all these people. And it was because Pete Garcia made him do it. Pete Garcia got Paul D to tell Larry Coker to fire his entire staff, and then brought in a bunch of guys that I still don't remember. I just remember walking around the building going like, who the hell are these coaches and why are they here? And they're certainly not as good as the guys that just left. That's a story for another day. But after that, right, Larry Coker's last year, Miami wins a bowl against Nevada out in Boise. That was terrible. That was a horrible experience. I got like half the team got sick with a stomach thing, and including me. That was a horrible plane ride back. I'll be honest with you. It was like real field negative, like 10 degrees in Boise for the game on the Smurf turf. And then after that, it just really, the bottom fell out. We've been here for a while. So 11 wins is on the line for the University of Miami. That's something big. That's huge, right? To go from 5 to 7, now 11, that would be a big thing for the University of Miami. And I'm just happy that we get to see Cam Ward play football again, right? Because we know how blessed we've been to have arguably the best quarterback in Miami history play football for the University of Miami. And, he's going to end up being the highest drafted quarterback, I think, in the NFL draft, at least. Because remember, Jim Kelly went to the USFL first, right? So there was that. But Cam Ward might go number 1 in the draft. It's kind of surreal to think about. So to get to see Cam Ward play again, to get to see Damian Martinez run the ball again, and the thing I'm really looking forward to, what I'm going to have my eyes on, are these young receivers, right? With Isaiah Horton leaving, with the squad of Jacoby George and Xavier Restrepo leaving. We don't know about Sam Brown. It is time for next generation. So JoJo, Nikar, Chance Robinson, who I met his dad. He's a great guy. Met him on one of the road trips that I was on. And Ray, right? Got to see those guys step up in this game and see what they can do. That's what the bowl games are about. You want to win, but you also want to see next generation players, kind of their introduction to what they're going to be next season. This is their opportunity to kind of see what's going on. So Iowa State comes in, and they're a pretty decent team. Matt Campbell, I've always liked him as a coach. Remember, he's a guy that really does more with less. Made his name at Toledo, then got hired at Iowa State, and has really had that program headed in the right direction slowly. And I think they've done a really good job with the athletes that they're able to recruit at Iowa State. I think Iowa, the Hawkeyes, are kind of the flagship team in that state. If you can think of the state of Iowa as a football state, Iowa State comes after them, and Iowa State comes in, pretty good on offense. They've got a quarterback that can not only, I think, was it Rocco Beck? He can not only pass the ball, but he can scramble as well, which anytime in the last 20 years that the University of Miami has faced a quarterback that can get out of the pocket and scramble, it scares the living you-know-what out of me. So that is no different for the Pop Tarts Bowl with a quarterback that is able to scramble. So they have a really good offense. The weakness in their offense is their offensive line. It's woeful. They are not good at pass blocking. They're not great at run blocking. So I think they're ranking the hundreds in both. So University of Miami should have some opportunities on defense, at least from the defensive line standpoint, to get pressure on their quarterback. And we'll see how that works, right? We'll see how this defense can pull it together for this game, because Lord knows they have not been good the last part of the season for the University of Miami. I mean, the 21-point collapse at Syracuse is why they didn't make the college football playoff. So, let's hope the defense shows up against Iowa State. So we're looking forward to some of these young guys playing, looking forward to seeing how the defense plays against Iowa State, and looking forward to seeing Cam Ward sling that rock one more time for the University of Miami. A couple of transfer portal news. This thing keeps going. So I hesitate, because by the time I throw something out there, it's going to change. But the University of Miami picked up a commitment from a defensive back, which they need. They need like 27 defensive backs. Hopefully ones that can actually play the position. But they picked up a commitment from Emmanuel Carnley from Arizona. 6'2", 185 pounds. He started 8 games. He appeared in 10. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. As far as the scouting report on him, I looked at some of the PFF grades. They're not great, to be honest with you. This is going to be a kid. It's going to have to be coached up. So that kind of has me a little bit worried. But listen, he's ranked as like the number 6 best defensive back in the portal, the number 68th overall player in the portal. So there's that. I think he's a guy that has the ability. And listen, again, you just need numbers in the defensive backfield. You'll sort out the rest out, but you just need numbers, because they lack depth this year. They lack quality depth, and they lacked guys that could, when Damari Brown got hurt, they weren't able to figure that out. Other than, really the most consistent player in the defensive backfield was O.J. Frederick. Mish Powell at times. I think he was more impressive off the field as a leader than he was on the field as a safety. So they've got all sorts of things to figure out in the defensive backfield. So maybe Carnley helps them with that. I think he's the second or third defensive back they've gotten in the portal so far this offseason. So a lot of things going on in the transfer portal. Now, I saw this headline from multiple, I think it was just aggregated, but it was like, the University of Miami suffers huge loss in the portal with offensive tackle Zion Nelson entering the transfer portal. One, I thought he retired because of injuries. Two, listen, his entire career, he was a huge recruit, one of the biggest recruits, right? All the stars as a recruit, Zion Nelson had all the hopes for him in the world, right? But as a 6-year redshirt senior, when you think back in the career of Zion Nelson, not much to think about. He's been hurt most of his career. And when he was out there, I wasn't blown away. So, to categorize this as a huge loss for Miami is one of the dumbest headlines I've seen on the cyberwebs in a long time. Not a huge loss. Like, good luck, Zion. I hope you're healthy. Hopefully you catch on somewhere, have a good year, and make your way to the next level. But for you, really, the key is being able to be out there and play, because health has been an issue since you've been at the University of Miami. So I saw that headline and I was like, whoever is writing the story has literally literally saw Zion Nelson, Googled him, saw how many stars he was coming out of high school, was like, oh, this is a big loss for Miami, but literally didn't look at any news stories about the fact that he's been hurt his entire career. So there's that. I'm sure there'll be plenty of more portal action to come. And then we've got another month plus before more recruiting happens. We got all of the offseason moves always coming down. So we will bring that to you here on the Real Ones Canes podcast. So enjoy the Pop Tarts Bowl. You got 3 edible mascots this year, right? Yeah, 3 of them, 3 different flavors that the winning team is going to be able to choose from as far as which mascot they eat. So that's interesting. You got your frosted hot fudge, you got your or frosted hot fudge sundae, you got your frosted wild berry, and a mystery flavor. I would choose the mystery flavor, right? Wouldn't you go in with the mystery flavor? And then, of course, you got the trophy. But I don't know if you saw, my good friend Andrea Adelson was able to take the Pop Tarts Bowl trophy home and had it in her kitchen. And the thing about the Pop Tarts Bowl is they partnered with GE to install a toaster in the trophy. So Andrea was at home in her kitchen toasting Pop Tarts in the trophy, and it looked delightful. Who wouldn't want to be able to plug a trophy in and toast some Pop Tarts? So we've got that. We've got all this stuff going for us. I will not be at the game. I'll be traveling back from New England, and I have an event at night in South Florida that will preclude me from driving to Orlando and being able to take part in the Pop Tart Madness. But I will be watching, and I will be keeping you guys abreast after the game with my thoughts and what have you. All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, I want to get into the story that broke yesterday, Thursday, December 26th. Jim Larranaga decides to step down, retire as the head coach of the University of Miami men's basketball team. We will discuss that and more on the other side. You're listening and watching the Real Ones Canes podcast. Welcome back to the Real Ones Canes podcast. I'm the Beast, Brian London. Follow me on all the socials at Miami Radio Beast. Hey, wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe to the podcast so it gets pushed to your device whenever we publish a new episode. If you're watching this on one of the YouTube channels, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Would really appreciate your subscription. Hit the thumbs up, hit the bell. And that way you're notified of new episodes. So major news hit the University of Miami family yesterday. I'm recording this Friday morning, December 27th. So yesterday being Thursday, December 26th, we got word in the morning, broken by the amazing Michelle Kaufman from the Miami Herald, who is still cranking out amazing stories and getting it done for the Miami Herald, that Jim Larranaga was going to retire, was going to step down immediately as a head coach of the University of Miami. Saturday, the last Saturday, the University of Miami um, lost to St. Mary's, and I think the Hurricanes are 4-8 now, and it had me and a lot of other fans just kind of shaking our head. Now, on the positive side, I said to myself, with my orange and green colored glasses, all right, listen, the non-conference, not that important. Yeah, I mean, I guess when you're thinking about March and seedings and strength of schedule and all the other stuff, sure. But you got the ACC season coming up. Maybe they'll gel. Maybe they'll come together. Maybe Jim will pull some of that magic out of a hat um, and get the team together for the season. But the team was not trending in the right direction. And if you'd been reading the quotes and listening to Jim Larranaga's press conferences throughout the season, you could see his frustration, right? He repeatedly talked about his team's ability to play offense, but literally he was like, I can't get them to play defense. I cannot get them to play defense. And I think, Jaleel Bethea, the biggest recruit in University of Miami basketball history, started one game. And I think a lot of that had to do with the inability to play defense. But that's what Jim Larranaga requires, right? He has a system. Defense is incredibly important to it. And he wasn't going to throw the freshman out there just to play, just because he was heralded and was a huge star recruit and had a huge NIL deal. That's not Jim Larranaga's modus operandi, MO, if you will. So, I kind of felt like regardless, this was going to be Jim's last season. He just turned 75, and I don't, listen, if he can coach, he can coach. I don't care what age he is. I mean, literally when he came here, 11, 12 years ago, in his 60s, we were like, wow, this guy, why are they hiring this guy? And look what he's done, right? And let's take a step back. There's no doubt about it that Jim Larranaga is the best basketball coach that Miami's ever had. Before this, it would have been Leonard Hamilton. But Jim Larranaga far has exceeded all expectations and done the job that he came into. After that run at George Mason, came to Miami, took Miami to 6 NCAA tournaments, 4 Sweet 16 appearances. That includes a Final Four run a couple of years ago. They went to an Elite 8. They were 11-6 in NCAA tournament games in Jim Larranaga's, in his era at Miami. He did everything he could possibly do to make Miami a consistent winner in basketball. And I think Jim has run up against what all of these other coaches that was brought up in the press conference yesterday who have stepped down recently. You're talking about Tony Bennett, Coach K, Jim Boeheim. All these coaches have decided to give it up because the era of college basketball that we are in is unlike any other, right? The NIL situation and the transfer portal combined just wreaks havoc on your program. And I was talking about this with my dad last night, right? It's different than, because you can't group the football situation with the basketball situation because it's completely different. If you lose 10 guys off a football team, one, you're going to bring 10 guys in, but it's not going to, that's an eighth of your football roster, right? But if you lose, like they did, when 8 guys, and Jim tells the story, 8 guys walked into his office, the day after they, lost at the Final Four and said, hey, we're transferring. Well, that's 8 guys off a roster that's, basically that's half the team, if not more, especially of the guys that contribute, right? If you don't count walk-ons and guys that aren't going to contribute, that's your team. So every year you're replacing your entire team. 4 guys from that Final Four team could still be on the roster right now. And there's 1 guy left from the Final Four team. That was only 2 years ago. And so, in an era where you're replacing your team every year, and now you're negotiating with agents, right? Like when Jim Larranaga signed up to coach college basketball, he didn't, have negotiating with agents on the list, right? Now, let's be honest, okay? And I'm not talking specifically about Miami. I'm talking about college basketball as a whole, right? Like money has been paid. Everyone see blue chips? Money has been dished out and paid for years, forever, to the best players, right? But dealing with like street agents and family members, and it's an assistant coach, and it wasn't involving like a contract for $1.1 million a year, right? And all other sorts of goodies that came from NIL sponsors and what have you, right? Like, sure, you'd get a guy a car and you'd give him a couple $100,000 and he'd be good to go, and you'd have him for 4 years. That's not the case anymore. Now it's like every year is a free agency year. These guys are looking for more money every year. You're dealing with agents, you're dealing with all sorts of people. It's a complete, and the thing about it is people are calling it a pro sport. And it is. These guys are professionals. They're getting paid to play, but it doesn't have um the same sort of guardrails that professional sports actually have, right? Where players sign contracts that have to be honored, so they're out of place for 2, 3, 4 years unless they're traded. Um, there's collective bargaining, right? So everyone's on the same page. Every conference is on the same page. Every team is revenue sharing and all of that stuff. There's a union. There's all sorts of guardrails in place to make it a system that is on the up and up, basically. This is not. This is the Wild West. It's free reign. There's nothing in place that makes it a transparent process across the board. And I think that's what Jim Larranaga has a hard time dealing with, right? It's not that he said yesterday in his press conference, he's like, I agree that players should be able to transfer and players should be able to get paid. But we're in an era where there's, and I get it, right? A coach can leave from one year to the next. Why can't the players do that? Agreed. But when contracts are in place, right? If a coach leaves, uh, you know, X school and goes to another school, they have a contract. They have to be bought out of that contract. So, which means the school is reimbursed, and then the coach goes somewhere else, right? Well, if a player leaves, that's not the same situation. There's no reimbursement. There's no like. It's not. You don't get anything back for that. And now it's just everyone's a mission. Is uh, playing on a 1 year deal in college basketball and college football, but it's different in college football, I think. So I think Jim Larranaga looked at it and said, listen, um, the part about coaching basketball and running practices and drawing up X's and O's, and for Jim, the other important thing is kind of the life skills thing. He's always talking to these guys about life skills and how to do the things on a day-to-day basis that maybe they didn't pick up while they were in the AAU thing in high school, and getting them culturally aware of things. You taking them to Broadway shows, talking to them about history, going to museums, just things because they're going to be out in the real world, and he wants to make sure they're ready for that. And none of that matters anymore. The basketball, actual coaching of the basketball, has taken a back seat to negotiating deals and working the portal to make sure you have a team to field. And I think Jim just said, listen, and yeah, sure, age has to play a part in it, but I don't think that's the number one factor. I just think his personality is as a teacher and a coach, not as a negotiator with agents. It's not what he signed up for. So I feel it, you know, on one hand, I was texting with someone yesterday. I won't out them, who was kind of pushing back on me, saying, "Well, this is the game now. Jim's making excuses that he can't get it done in the game." I mean, maybe. I don't think he's making excuses. He is telling you, like, this is not what he's signed up for and not what he's good at, right? Which is why he decided to abruptly step down and retire. It's him admitting, like, I can't function the way I need to function as a coach in this system. I think that's abundantly clear that he was honest with you about that. Um, and I'll be listen, I am all for the players getting paid and I'm all for the transfer portal. But I think guardrails have to be put into place to ensure that if you're gonna treat this as professional sports, professional basketball, then make it like professional basketball. That's all I'm saying. Let's have contracts being signed. Let's have everything transparent. Let's have some sort of commitment. Hey, if you get an NIL deal and you're going to transfer, then someone needs to, pay back the collective that got you that NIL deal if you transfer, right? Like, we need to get something back in return for you leaving. And maybe that'll cause you to think twice, or maybe other schools won't poach you because their collective can't give back, whatever it is. Okay. I'm just saying that things have to be put into place to get this on the right track. I think we've made leaps forward, right? For listen, we're no longer at the point where an education is a good enough repayment for play. Because if you look at the hours that these guys put in and what they go through in order to bring wins, hopefully wins, but every time they go out there with the name of the university on their jersey on national TV, and millions of people are watching, what does that do for the university marketing wise? Right. That's the whole thing. And then, that was the players' gripe, that we're basically being used and not being compensated enough. And I agree, but there needs to be something in place to kind of get this just a little more reined in. Now, you have a situation where Bill Courtney, who's been along Jim Larranaga's side, had been his top recruiter for years, back to George Mason. I don't know if he went back to Bowling Green with Jim or not, but he's been at George Mason. He's been at Miami with Jim Larranaga. So he's going to be the interim coach. And then Dan Radakovich is now going to step up and do a search. And his last two searches have fallen into his lap, right? Mario Cristobal, that was, the Columbus crew got together and brought Mario Cristobal back. For baseball, he just decided to go with JD Arteaga, who was already in-house. Now, the easy look, and I love him a lot, and I'm saying he definitely should be considered for the job, is former Larranaga assistant Chris Caputo, has done a good job up at George Washington. Love Chris, love everything he's doing, love what he's about. Great dude, great coach. Think he should be considered. But if you're Dan Radakovich, you need to do your due diligence, make this a national search. I think the Miami job is an attractive one because of their recent success, because of the support the athletic department is now showing for athletics as opposed to what it was before Dan Radakovich got here. So I think it's an attractive job. And instead of just having one candidate in Chris Caputo and signing him right off the bat, I think you have to do your due diligence and open it up and see. You never know who's going to apply for the job, right? When the Miami job came open before Jim Larranaga, right? No one had Jim Larranaga on their list, but Jim Larranaga had a relationship with the Moss brothers. He contacted them. they contacted Miami. It all went through, and Jim Larranaga was holding a press conference, right? Which I was at. I remember it like it was yesterday. So do your national search, do your due diligence. Let's not listen. Love Chris Caputo. Hope he gets a fair shot. Hope he's brought in for an interview, all of that stuff. But let's do the national search. Let's see who's available. I'm not going to sit here and speculate on what the names are that should be considered. I think I'll do a deep dive on that on my plane ride back home to South Florida and have some updates. And I know some people that are tied into college basketball and would have some of that information, but it's the holiday season and you have to wait to kind of after the first of the year till they're back in the saddle for me to be able to get in touch with them. So I think actually I thought about someone I was going to reach out to, and I checked social media. They were on like a sailboat in like the Virgin Islands. So I'm like, yeah, not going to call that person. I'll let them enjoy the Virgin Islands before I reach out and get some info on who the candidates at the University of Miami is going to be. So, listen, I'm going to miss Jim Larranaga as a coach. I love Jim Larranaga, just like I loved Katie Meyer, right? I thought they were two great representatives of the program. And the good thing for the University of Miami and Jim Larranaga is he basically said yesterday, he's like, I'm not leaving Coral Gables. He's like, I'm going to stay around the university, just like Katie Meyer has. And I think you have in Katie and Jim two veteran people that can really help in the guidance that they've seen it all in college athletics, right? And those are two people that can be in the ear of Dan Radakovich and the other leaders of the athletic department to just, give them some advice if needed. And I think that's a good thing. Plus, as increasing that endowment and donations is readily more important because now you're paying athletes and soon the university is going to have to pay athletes with the lawsuit and the whole thing. You need more money. And to have Katie Meyer and Jim Larranaga on the road, getting donations for you, I think can only help. So we'll see where this goes. Was I shocked? No. Was I surprised a little bit at the timing? Yes, I thought Jim would want to see it through, but I think, listen, when you wake up in the morning and you're not 100% committed, it's time to, you can't, right? This is, I don't know why I'm making this analogy, but it just came to mind. Back in the days when I used to be an avid skier, it was a little slimmer back in those days because me going down a hill now would be bad. But, my entire childhood, I spent every waking moment in the winter skiing the mountains of New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont. And I remember, I can't tell you how many times I would be at the top of a trail, like a black diamond or a double black diamond, and I would just pause, and I'd be like, am I really into this? Like, are my knees really gonna handle these moguls? Like, what's it looks kind of icy. Like, am I really into this, or should I just take the easy way out and go take that blue trail, or even a nice green just to kind of float down the mountain? And if I wasn't 100% committed, like if I wasn't like gung ho, here we go, like I wasn't gonna go zipping down that black diamond or double black diamond. Like that wasn't gonna happen. Like I remember Loon Mountain in New Hampshire, there was the hardest trail was Angel Street, and it was just like downhill, like as steep as it comes, moguls. But in the White Mountains, it's very icy. So it's not powder, right? You're not dealing with powder. You're dealing with like packed, hard, icy snow. And I would get to the top of Angel Street and I would be like, not today, beast. And then I would go, wimp out and go pick the blue trail. And that's the same thing, man. If you are not 100% committed, you can't go forward because bad things happen, right? Bad things happen if you try to pursue something and you are not 100% committed. You make mistakes. You you let things fall through the cracks. I think Jim Larranaga literally woke up on Saturday after the game, woke up Sunday morning. It was just like, listen, I'm at the top of a double black diamond and I'm not fully committed. Time to take the green circle or the blue square and get out of here. That's my analogy on that. So We will miss Jim Larranaga on the sidelines, and we hope that Dan Radakovich can do the right thing, and we'll see what happens with this team the rest of the year. I'm not expecting much. I'd like to see Jaleel Bethea turn into something. If he doesn't, man, I'll be really disappointed. But we'll have a new era of Miami Hurricanes men's basketball next season, and we'll see where we go from there. All right, that'll do it for me on this episode. Enjoy the Pop Tarts Bowl. If I don't speak to you, have a very happy new year, although I will speak to you after the Pop Tarts Bowl. But if you don't see that, have an amazingly happy and healthy new year. Let's all wish for health and prosperity in 2025. And we will see you when we see you. Peace.